Welcome to Mind Set in Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Ever been there? You pour everything into something new, maybe a project, learning guitar, whatever, and it just falls flat.
Oh, absolutely. That moment of hitting a wall.
Exactly. And what's that voice in your head say? Is it, guess I'm just not cut out for this? Or is it more like, okay, what went wrong? How can I fix it?
That very difference, that internal reaction, is really the heart of what we're talking about today.
It is. We're doing a deep dive into mindset, specifically looking at Carol Dweck's work, mostly from her book, Mindset.
Yeah, her research over, 30 years now, it shows how our core beliefs about our own abilities shape almost everything.
Everything. So we'll be breaking down these two main mindsets she identifies, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset.
And understanding these isn't just, an interesting thought experiment. Dweck's work with students, athletes, business leaders, it shows real-world consequences.
Right. How you approach challenges, how you handle setbacks, how you see success, it all ties back to this. And she even updated the book, adding that journey to a true growth mindset part.
Which acknowledges it's not always easy. But the point is, knowing this stuff can genuinely impact your life, how you learn, how you relate to people.
So our mission today, really, is to help you understand these mindsets, maybe see where your own tendencies lie.
And grasp what that means, and ultimately give you the tools, if you choose, to maybe cultivate more of a growth mindset.
Okay, let's get down to it then. The fixed mindset. What's the absolute core belief there?
At its essence, it's the belief that your qualities like intelligence, personality, talents are just fixed traits, carved in stone.
Like you get a certain amount, and that's it.
Pretty much. You're dealt a hand, and you just have to live with it. There isn't much you can do to change the fundamental you.
And Dweck had this experience in 6th grade, right? With a teacher named Mrs. Wilson. That really kind of drove this home for her.
Oh, yeah. Mrs. Wilson was a believer in IQ scores as the ultimate measure. Like, she thought they told the whole story permanently.
So she wasn't like Binet, the guy who invented IQ tests, but thought intelligence could grow.
Exactly the opposite. Mrs. Wilson used IQ to sort kids. She literally seated them in the classroom based on their scores.
Wow. Only the smartest kids got responsibilities.
Right. Imagine being a kid in that room. It sends a powerful message. Intelligence is fixed, and everyone knows where you stand.
So if you buy into that your intelligence, your abilities are fixed, how does that change how you look at, say, a difficult task, a challenge?
Well, challenges become threatening. Instead of seeing a chance to learn, you see a situation where your fixed ability is going to be tested, and you might be found lacking.
You might look dumb, basically.
Exactly, or feel deficient. So the main goal becomes avoid that feeling. Avoid looking bad, protect the image of having the right amount of talent.
Dweck uses this scenario, right? Like a bad grade, a parking ticket, a friend being off-ish. How does someone with a fixed mindset process that?
Yeah, it's a great illustration. Those everyday bumps become huge personal indictments. The bad grade doesn't just mean I didn't study enough. It means I'm stupid.
The parking ticket means I'm an idiot.
Or I'm just unlucky, like the universe is against them. The friend being distant isn't, maybe they're having a bad day, it's, I'm a reject.
It escalates really fast into these global negative labels about themselves.
Precisely. As Dweck points out, it's not actual death and destruction, but it feels like it, because it's seen as proof of their fixed inadequacy.
And that leads to trying to avoid failure, doesn't it? Like what kinds of behaviors come out of that?
Well, if failure means you're fundamentally flawed, you'll do a lot to avoid it. Maybe you stop trying so hard on the next thing.
But what's the point if you don't have the gene for it?
Right. Or you might just withdraw. Stay in bed, like in Dweck's example. Avoid any situation where you might be measured or judged again. It's self-protection.
Okay, that paints a clear, if somewhat bleak, picture. Let's talk about the other side of the coin then, the growth mindset. What's the core belief here?
It's fundamentally the opposite. The belief that your abilities, your intelligence, they aren't fixed. They can be developed.
Through what?
Through dedication, through hard work, through learning, through good strategies. It sees your current abilities as just a starting point for growth.
So let's use that same scenario. Bad grade, parking ticket, friend acting weird. How does the growth mindset react?
The reaction is way more constructive. The bad grade It's feedback. Okay, I need to study harder or maybe try a different approach next time.
Not I'm stupid.
No. The parking ticket is annoying, but you pay it. Maybe you're more careful next time. The friend, you might think, I wonder what's up with them. Maybe reach out.
So you see setbacks as information, not verdicts.
Exactly. Information you can use, problems to be solved, opportunities to learn something.
It's not that they like getting bad grades or parking tickets, obviously.
Of course not. Feeling disappointed or frustrated is normal. Everyone feels that. But the growth mindset doesn't let that feeling define them or stop them.
It allows for resilience, for taking risks.
Yes. It fuels the desire to keep trying, to keep learning, because challenges are seen as the path to getting better, not proof that you can't.
And this connects back to Binet, right? The idea that the smartest starters aren't always the smartest finishers.
Right. Dweck brings him up again here. Binet realized that real expertise often comes from what she calls purposeful engagement. Meaning focused effort, sustained practice, dedication over time. That's often more important than where you started or how naturally gifted you seemed at first.
That makes sense. Let's talk about some of the research. Dweck mentions an experiment with 4-year-olds in jigsaw puzzles. What did that show?
Oh, that one's classic. Kids were offered a choice. Redo an easy puzzle they'd already solved, or try a harder one.
And the difference was stark.
Very. The kids identified with a fixed mindset overwhelmingly chose the easy one. They wanted to look smart to succeed again easily.
Avoid the risk of struggling.
Exactly. But the kids with the growth mindset, they jumped at the harder puzzle. They saw it as a chance to learn something new, even if they might struggle.
So one group prioritizes proving their ability, the other prioritizes improving it.
Precisely. It shows the different goals these mindsets create, right from a young age.
And there was another study, with older students choosing an English course.
Yes. They could choose a challenging course that promised a lot of learning but might hurt their GPA, or an easier one.
Let me guess. Growth mindset students went for the challenge.
Enthusiastically. They saw the learning opportunity. Fixed mindset students mostly avoided it.
Why? Fear of looking bad.
Fear of exposing a perceived weakness. If you think your English ability is fixed, a hard course where you might not shine is just too risky, even if you'd learn more. Better to play it safe.
That fear of deficiency just keeps coming up with the fixed mindset. Okay, how does this play out in relationships? Especially romantic ones.
Oh, it has a huge impact. Someone with a fixed mindset often looks for a partner who validates their fixed qualities. They want to be put on a pedestal.
Like constantly admired, seen as perfect.
Pretty much. Dweck uses the phrase almost like wanting to be the god of a one-person religion. The relationship becomes about getting that constant reassurance of their inherent wonderfulness.
Wow, that sounds intense. And potentially fragile. Dweck shares something from her own early marriage, doesn't she?
She does. Her husband needed that constant adoration, even calling his mother for validation if he didn't get enough from her. His view was that a good relationship meant total, uncritical acceptance.
Which clashed with her view.
Completely. She believed in growth, communication, working through problems together. His fixed mindset saw problems as signs the relationship itself was flawed, not opportunities to grow closer.
So one sees the relationship as this static thing that needs constant affirmation. The other sees it as something dynamic, evolving.
Exactly. The growth mindset in relationships sees challenges not as threats, but as, well, chances to deepen understanding, improve communication, and build something stronger together.
It's about growing together, not just being perfect together from day one.
Right, because perfect from day one usually isn't sustainable or even real.
This ties into another big piece, the whole idea of innate talent and potential. The fixed mindset seems to really buy into the idea that you can just spot potential, right?
Oh, absolutely. It assumes potential is this fixed thing you either have or you don't, and it's easily measurable, often based on really superficial stuff.
Like the Joseph P. Kennedy example, dismissing someone's future based on their socks.
Exactly. It sounds absurd, but it perfectly captures that fixed mindset tendency to make these huge, definitive judgments based on almost nothing. Believing potential is just obvious.
But Dweck offers so many counterexamples. People who were totally written off early on.
Loads of them. Jackson Pollock, Proust, Elvis, Ray Charles, Lucille Ball, even Darwin. People who experts at the time didn't see much promise in.
So the growth mindset view of potential is totally different.
Completely. It sees potential as the capacity to develop skills over time. With effort, coaching, dedication, how can you possibly know the limit of that development beforehand?
You really can't. Like Cézanne's early paintings apparently weren't that great.
Reportedly pretty bad, yeah. But he developed. It shows mastery is a journey, not just something you're born with. Even NASA, when selecting astronauts, supposedly looked for people who'd overcome failures.
Not just people with perfect records.
Right, because that showed resilience, the ability to learn and grow from setbacks. That's valuing growth potential over just perceived fixed talent.
Okay, let's shift slightly to the ego. How does the fixed mindset connect with needing to feel special or superior?
Well, if your worth is tied to having fixed inherent talent, then success often gets interpreted as proof that you are special, inherently better than others.
And failure means you're ordinary, which feels terrible.
Exactly. There's this fear of being average, this need for constant validation to prop up that feeling of being exceptional. It can lead to a very fragile ego.
Fragile because it depends entirely on external success or comparison.
Right. What happens if you're not successful? If you meet someone better? If your identity is built on being the best, then not being the best feels like a threat to your very self.
Unlike someone like Michael Jordan, who Dweck points out, knew his success came from struggle and work, not just being born better.
Precisely. He had immense talent, no doubt, but he framed it as something earned through relentless effort. Tom Wolfe's The Right Stuff touches on that pilot ego too, that belief in innate superiority.
It's a vulnerable place to be, psychologically.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to failure. How is failure itself experienced differently?
For the fixed mindset, failure can feel catastrophic. Dweck tells the story of the Martins, whose son Robert didn't get into the top preschool. They were devastated.
Because it reflected badly on his and maybe their inherent specialness.
Exactly. It wasn't just disappointment. It was like a judgment on his fixed potential. And because failure is seen as this final verdict, the fixed mindset doesn't really offer a way to overcome it.
There's no recipe for bouncing back if failure just means you lack the right stuff.
Right. So the response is often avoidance, denial, or as research showed with those 7th graders, studying less after a bad grade. Why bother if you believe you can't improve?
Or making excuses, blaming things.
Yeah.
Like John McEnroe's famous list.
Yes. The fever, the backache, the tabloids, his girlfriend. Anything but his own performance. It's about protecting that fixed self-image, or comparing yourself to people who did even worse.
Self-esteem repair, she calls it.
Yeah. Contrast that with someone like Jack Welch at GE. Huge scandals happened, but he took responsibility, focused on fixing the problems. That's more growth-oriented.
And even with something like depression, the mindset matters.
Significantly. Dweck notes that growth-minded individuals experiencing depression are more likely to take action, confront problems, keep up with life. They see feeling bad as a signal to try harder, not give up.
That's fascinating. Seeing a low point as a catalyst, not an end point.
Okay, what about effort? How is effort viewed differently?
In the fixed mindset, effort is almost suspicious. It's seen as something only needed by people who lack natural talent.
Like if you were really gifted, it would just come easily.
That's the underlying belief. Putting in too much effort can even tarnish your image as a natural. It admits you don't just have it automatically. Like not just Lerno Sonnenberg, the violinist, fearing practice would expose her as not truly gifted.
Exactly. She feared effort would take away her excuses if she wasn't perfect. It was safer to rely on the natural talent narrative, even if it held her back.
Whereas the growth mindset sees effort completely differently.
As the key. Effort is what activates ability, what transforms potential into reality. It's the engine of growth.
So avoiding effort is the real risk in a growth mindset.
Absolutely. Because avoiding effort means avoiding learning, avoiding improvement. Like a person afraid to commit to a relationship because trying and failing felt too scary. Effort is embraced, not seen as a sign of weakness.
It's the path, not proof of deficiency. Now, Dweck uses a funny example, Punxsutawney Phil from Groundhog Day. How does that fit?
It's a great metaphor, initially at least. Phil starts with total contempt for his situation, just wanting to escape the repeating day. He sees it as this fixed, awful reality.
He's not thinking, hey, maybe I can use this time to learn piano.
Not at first. His initial reaction is pure fixed mindset. This is bad, I hate it, let me out. He doesn't see the potential for growth within the situation until much later. His transformation happens when he shifts towards growth.
That's a neat way to think about it. Okay, so the big question. How do we actually develop a growth mindset? Is it something we can consciously cultivate?
Yes, definitely. And Dweck stresses that nobody is purely one mindset all the time. We all have fixed mindset triggers. The first step is just recognizing them.
Becoming aware of when that fixed mindset voice pipes up.
Exactly. When do you feel judged? When do challenges make you want to retreat? When does criticism feel like a personal attack? Knowing your triggers is key.
And it's not about trying to become perfect, is it?
No, not at all. A growth mindset isn't about saying you have to change everything or never accept imperfections. That's impossible and unhealthy. It's about understanding that growth is possible in areas that matter to you.
There was a study where teaching students about growth mindset helped them learn computer skills.
Yes, they became more confident and learned better, even with mistakes. The fixed mindset group lost confidence when they hit errors. June's letter in the book also shows someone overcoming helplessness by shifting perspective.
So it's about seeing learning as the goal, not just performance or grades.
Right. Growth-minded people tend to take charge of their learning process, look for different ways to understand things, whereas fixed-minded people might just focus on the grade as the only measure.
This brings up the gifted label again. We know praising ability can be harmful, but what about kids who genuinely seem advanced early on?
Dweck acknowledges researchers like Ellen Winter who study prodigies. Some kids do show incredible early aptitude, but she contrasts that with Benjamin Bloom's huge study.
What did Bloom find?
He studied top performers across many fields, athletes, artists, scientists. Most were not seen as exceptional children. Their success came from incredible drive, dedication, practice, and strong support systems.
So motivation and environment were key, not just innate giftedness.
Largely, yes. Bloom concluded almost anyone can learn almost anything given the right conditions. It counters that fixed idea of inherent limits. The funny drawn owl anecdote captures that feeling the big leap often requires unseen effort and learning, not magic.
Okay, so praising intelligence is bad because it fosters a fixed mindset. What's the alternative? How should we praise kids or anyone?
Focus on the process, not the person's fixed traits. Praise effort, strategies, focus, persistence, improvement, choices. You worked really hard on that. That was a clever way you approached that problem. I like how you kept trying even when it got tough.
So you're praising things they can control and develop.
Exactly. And if they try hard and still don't succeed, acknowledge the effort, empathize with the struggle, and focus on learning for next time. Okay, that didn't work out. What can we learn from this? What could we try differently?
Well, maybe math just isn't your thing.
Definitely not. Avoid messages that imply fixed limits. Dweck shares the story of Christina, whose parents' reassurances about her being smart actually increased her test anxiety because it raised the stakes of potentially failing to live up to that label.
So focus on the difficulty of the task, not the fixed ability of the person.
Yes, and give constructive feedback focused on learning, not judgment. Instead of, this homework is sloppy, try, how can we make this work clearer? Or, let's look at this part together.
Think like teaching a baby to walk antelope. You encourage the process. You don't judge the stumbles.
Beautiful analogy. It's about teaching and learning, not constant testing and judgment. Kids internalize these messages.
And fixed mindset messages can have serious consequences, like with Sandy, the student whose parents nearly derailed him by focusing only on prestigious college names.
Right. They had a fixed idea of his success, regardless of his actual interests or development. It becomes, we love you if you meet our fixed standards.
Whereas growth mindset parenting sets high standards but focuses on effort, progress, individuality.
Yes, like the teachers, Dorothy DeLay, Marva Collins, Rafe Esquith. They had incredibly high expectations, but created nurturing environments focused on hard work and the belief that all students could learn and grow. They demystified talent.
Like DeLay hiding the metronome so a student wouldn't limit themselves based on a fixed idea of speed.
Exactly. Removing the fixed benchmark to allow for growth. It's about fostering that desire to learn, not the fear of being judged.
This applies to coaching too, right?
Yeah.
The contrast between fixed and growth mindset coaches.
Huge difference. Think Bobby Knight, brilliant, but often judgmental, demeaning, taking losses personally. That can feel very fixed.
Compared to John Wooden?
Wooden was all about process, effort, constant improvement, treating everyone fairly, learning from wins and losses. His focus was always on striving to do your best, the growth process itself.
Pat Summitt also evolved, didn't she? From reacting intensely to losses to seeing them as learning opportunities.
Yes, learning not to get infected by success, realizing that continuous growth is key. Growth mindset coaches build character, not just skills.
Okay, let's talk more about the journey, the practical side Dweck added. What are common mistakes people make when trying to adopt a growth mindset?
One big one is thinking it just means being positive or open-minded. It's deeper than that. Another is praising effort that isn't actually leading to learning or progress. You have to praise the process tied to improvement.
Not just, you tried. if the strategy was all wrong and they didn't learn anything.
Right. And it's not telling kids they can do absolutely anything without effort or limits. It's about believing potential is unknown and can be developed.
So the first real step is acknowledging your own fixed mindset.
Yes. Embrace it. Don't be ashamed. We all have it. Then figure out your triggers, what situations, what kinds of feedback make that fixed voice loudest.
Maybe it's criticism, maybe it's seeing someone else succeed easily.
Could be anything. Identify that fixed mindset persona, as Dweck calls it. Give it a name, even. Understand how it operates in your head.
And then you can start challenging it.
Exactly. Start consciously shifting that internal monologue from judgment, I failed, I'm useless, to growth. Okay, that didn't work. What can I learn? What's my next step?
Programs like Brainology help with this, teaching about brain plasticity.
Yes, understanding that the brain physically changes with effort and learning is powerful. It makes the growth mindset tangible.
Does embracing growth feel like losing your old self?
It can feel unfamiliar, sure, but Dweck argues growth makes you more yourself. By unlocking potential that was held back by fixed beliefs, it's about adding, not losing.
And a key part is taking action, even when you don't feel like it.
Crucial. Growth mindset isn't just thinking differently, it's doing differently, making concrete plans for learning and improvement and sticking to them, even when it's hard.
Like the Heisman winner struggling in the NFL, a fixed reaction is despair. The growth reaction is, okay, what do I need to learn now?
Perfect example. Drop the cloak of specialness, as she puts it, which is really just armor-restricting growth.
How does this apply to changing relationships where fixed mindsets are causing problems?
It often involves challenging denial. Fixed mindsets can make us avoid problems, refuse to hear feedback. Stepping into growth means being willing to listen, even when it's uncomfortable.
And if you want to help your child develop a growth mindset,
live it yourself. Talk about learning from mistakes, yours and theirs. Value effort and different kinds of talents, not just academics or sports. Focus family discussions on the process of learning.
What about a spouse who you feel isn't contributing? Fixed mindset might just blame them.
Right. The growth approach involves communication, understanding their perspective, seeing it as a situation to learn from and potentially solve together, rather than just labeling them as lazy or uncaring.
It's about moving from blame to understanding and action.
Always. Focusing on negatives and whose fault it is, that's classic fixed mindset territory. Growth looks for positives, appreciates effort, and seeks solutions. It takes conscious work.
Okay, this has been incredibly illuminating. To wrap up this deep dive, let's crystallize the main takeaways and offer some actionable steps for listeners.
Absolutely. The big takeaway is that our belief about whether abilities are fixed or can be developed profoundly impacts almost everything. Fixed mindsets limit potential. Growth mindsets unlock it.
Abilities aren't carved in stone. They're cultivated through effort, learning, and persistence.
That's the core message. Potential is a journey, not a destination you arrive at instantly.
So, for listeners wanting to move towards growth, what are some first steps they can take?
First, self-reflection. Really notice your own thoughts and feelings when you face challenges or setbacks. Where does your mind automatically go? Identify those fixed mindset triggers.
Become aware of that internal voice.
Yes. Second, consciously reframe challenges. Try to see them not as tests you might fail, but as opportunities to learn something valuable. Ask, what can I learn, instead of, will I look stupid?
Shift the goal from proving to improving.
Exactly. Third, focus on the process, not just the outcome. Value your effort, the strategies you try, the progress you make, however small. Celebrate the trying, the learning.
And fourth, feedback.
Embrace it. Seek out constructive criticism. See it as a gift that helps you grow, even if it stings a little initially. Don't just defend, listen and learn.
And finally, if you're in a position to influence others, parent, teacher, manager, coach,
model it. Praise the process effort, strategies, resilience. Create environments where it's safe to struggle, make mistakes, and learn from them. Foster that belief and development in others.
Fantastic. Really practical steps. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Now that you've heard all this, what's just one area in your life, could be work, a hobby, a relationship, where you could consciously apply a growth mindset perspective starting today?
Just one small shift. Consider how viewing that area through a lens of learning and development rather than fixed traits might open up new possibilities for you.
It's a powerful question to ponder. We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights.
Thank you for joining us and exploring the power of mindset.
Thank you for listening. Until our next deep dive, keep learning, keep growing.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.